Welcome to the Dream Huge podcast, where we'll talk with real estate investors, entrepreneurs, business leaders, athletes, and more to inspire you with their success stories so you can work hard, never give up, and dream huge. And now, let's start the show.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Dream Huge podcast. Man, super excited for this one today. We love to share success stories from other huge dreamers, folks in the real estate business, entrepreneurs, movers, shakers, influencers, and more. And hopefully these stories will help to motivate and inspire you to also dream huge, baby. Our very special co-host, JP for 3, John Pavlansky. What's up, JP?
My man, Pete, what is going on, brother? I'm excited today. You know why? Because we're talking about some real estate, baby. We're talking about some real estate. We're talking about some property management. And we've got a great guest on today that's going to teach us how we can be more efficient in our real estate and property management businesses. But I do have one quick question. Pete, how are you doing, my man?
Fantastic, as always. Thank you for asking, JP. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. JP is a very busy man, #1 agent in the whole entire board of Mansfield. So thank you, JP, for taking the time. But we also have another Pete on the podcast today. My namesake, Pete Neubig. Different last name, same first name. Pete Neubig with VPM Solutions.com. Virtual assistants for real estate and property management. So, Pete, how are you, sir?
Man, that's a lot of energy. I got to step my game up. I got to get some coffee or some soda or something in me for this podcast. So good to be here. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, no, thank you. Always bringing that high energy. So let's dive right into it. Tell us about VPM and what it is that you guys do.
Yeah, so VPM is a marketplace that connects the real estate industry, property management, brokerages, HOA management, short-term, all that good stuff, with people looking for work in second and third world countries. So I think we have about 150 countries that we have people looking for work in. We pay out right now to about 23 countries. The platform is free for you to use. So yeah, exactly. So you can create a profile, you can post a job, you can browse profiles, find people. We have an algorithm that will match you with people. You can search by all these different criterias. We actually have training on the platform for the candidates to learn about property management and real estate. They can test out, get VPM certification, so you can search and sort by that as well. We have DISC profile, so you can find somebody who's got the right personality profile for your job role. You can then hire them. The way we make money is once you decide to hire them, they enter time on our platform and you pay through our platform, and we get paid by the candidate, or now the virtual assistant pays us 10%. So it's very simple math. They give us 10%. It's very open and transparent. When they apply for a job, they see how much they're applying for. They see how much that we take as our fee, and they get the rest. And the reason why we created the company, I used to own a property management firm. And if you know, when you're in a service-based business, as you grow, you need more people, and it's the seesaw, right? So for us, when we were growing and we had good growth, our team would be stressed out, but that was the only time I'd be profitable. Then I had to hire somebody before somebody would leave, and then we'd go back to the red, and then we got to go get more properties and more business, and it was this kind of seesaw. And we found that if we could actually hire good people, bilingual folks, typically they're college educated, looking for a career, they get paid more. Like if I pay somebody in Mexico, say $10, $12 an hour, that's more than what they can make in their local market. So you're paying above market pricing, but it's still way below market than if you hired somebody. I'm in Houston, Texas, so somebody in Houston. So we were able to transform our business, one from non-profitable to profitable, one from chaos or reactionary to proactionary or proactiveness. And so I was able to then sell my business. And when I decided what was I going to do next, it came to me, and I'm like, hey, maybe we should give this opportunity for other people so that they can create profitable businesses and, of course, help people get out of poverty in those second and third world countries.
Beautiful. I love it, man. I love this model. And I love that you said you always train them before you even put them in a position to work with real estate professionals, because as I'm sure you know too, Pete, it is constant changing. It is constant busy. And the system setup is usually something that falls by the wayside. If you could say in a general stance from an agent versus a property manager, how are these virtual assistants, how are they helping a client in this case?
Yeah. So like on a property management side, there's probably 20 or 30 different job roles that they can help with, anywhere from maintenance coordination to lease marketing to just general marketing, property accounting, and so forth. On the real estate side, there's only so many different roles that are needed for a realtor. Transaction coordinator is probably the big one. Instead of giving that big lump sum money, you can actually have a full-time transaction coordinator for just a few bucks an hour. SEO and SEO marketing, or just marketing in general. And then the other big one is appointment setter, right? While you're on appointment, somebody has to answer the phone. So those kind of like the three big ones that most agents hire. And of course, executive admin, right? So there's like four major ones that realtors hire through the platform. But property management, number one is kind of maintenance coordinator, but there's so many jobs out there. But the challenge is, no matter who you are, whether you're a realtor, broker, or a property manager, when we train them just enough that they can crawl. They understand what DOM means. They don't think it's DOM. They know it's days on market. They know the life cycle of property management. No matter what, they still need to be trained properly. And I see that as the biggest challenge that most people have. They hire somebody, they're so busy, they just kind of throw up on them, like, here, take all this stuff. And then I got stuff to do. And they don't really manage them or train them properly. So regardless, and just because they're quote unquote cheaper or cheap, doesn't mean if you don't know what they should do and you don't have good training and you don't have good management, you should not hire somebody just yet. And I know people will say, well, I'm too busy to do all that. Well, it is what it is. Like when I started, bringing on remote team members, I was working 12, 13 hours a day. It meant I had to work 13, 14 hours a day because I had to train them up an hour a day. And then eventually I got them to the point where they're trained up. Now I'm only working 6, 7 hours a day. I got to the point where I was working 4 hours a day. That's where I was when I sold my business. And so, if you can bring them on properly and leverage them, you can reduce the amount of time you have to work in your business, spend the time working on your business, which are the important things, right? They're going to be the things that grow your business in theory.
So if someone signs up, do you typically see like one dedicated assistant assigned, or am I getting a team of folks, or what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, Pete. So we don't offer like call center. We're not a call center. With us, it's called a direct hire model. They work directly for you. So as the software or the platform, we do a have you met, right? So we kind of meet you, and then we do payment processing, and we have some training on our platform. As far as like managing the team, that's all. They work directly for you. They don't work for us. They work directly for you. So you get them. If you want to hire full-time, you get them full-time. If you want to hire part-time, you get them part-time. When you post a job, you say, I want somebody short-term as for a project. I want somebody long-term, meaning it's potentially never ending. And I want somebody full-time or part-time.
So essentially, you guys are kind of playing the middleman and connecting great VAs that are real estate specific with great industry professionals who are looking for some assistance.
Yeah, we're very similar to like an Indeed, right? Indeed, You have people that post up their resumes. You have people looking for work, and then Indeed matches them up, and then they work for that company. With us, it's a little different because they're not W-2 employees. They're contractors, and they're not 1099s because they live outside the country. So they're W-8-BENs, but they're just direct hire contracted. You pay them through the platform, and you don't have to worry about any taxes. You don't have to worry about filing anything like that, because they're responsible for their own taxes, because they're getting paid in their own country, in their own currency, and in their own country.
Gotcha. Totally makes sense. Now, Pete, I know you mentioned a little bit to us as we were first starting, and I know you mentioned that you used to have some rentals. How did this come about? How long have you been doing it? What were you doing beforehand? Do you still have some rentals? I don't want to overflow you with too many questions, but how did you get to this point, and what made you start the company?
Yeah, so lots of questions there. I'll give you my 55 years in about 4 minutes. How's that?
That works.
So I started when I was in high school. You're told, get good grades, to go to a good school, to get a good job, right? My parents totally believed in that. They were middle-class folks, and I got decent grades. I went to a decent college and I got a decent job. And I graduated college back in 92. And if you know, in 1992, there was no thing called the internet. There was nothing, technology was brand new. So I realized pretty early on that if I wanted to get a job out of college, I should probably get into technology. Right. And so I decided not to be a management, or whatever those other useless, degrees are. So I got an IT, information systems degree, and I had a great career for about 20 years. And then what happened was, in 2001, right, which we all know what happened in 2001 with the Twin Towers and all that good stuff. JP, you don't seem like you were probably around back then, but Pete, you and I probably know a little bit about that.
Just a little guy back then. Just a little guy back.
Yeah.
I think I was maybe 14 days old.
I always wanted to own a business, but I never felt I was smart enough to own a business. And so back then in 2001, again, internet was in its infancy. It really wasn't around very much. I joined a local real estate group, and I'm like, well, I can buy real estate. That's not hard to learn, right? So I joined this real estate group, and I was very thankful for that. And I started buying property, and then I ended up buying some single family homes, some duplexes. I bought a few apartment complexes, and I bought so many. I ended up getting a business partner. His name is Steve, and Steve and I bought a bunch of properties, and we bought so many properties that we didn't know how to manage them. And this is now in 2005. Again, internet's still in its infancy. You can't just go and find a property manager. I don't even think anybody did single family management back then. So we thought we created the single family management business. And I created that. And it took me from that time till about 2012, when I finally quit my IT job, to go all in and start a third party management company. I was managing my own properties, managing some for friends and family. And finally in 12, I decided, okay, but basically the hardest decision I ever had to do, if you're sitting there on the fence, if you're going to quit your job, like, all I would tell you is don't quit your job and then figure out what you're going to do, right? Figure out what you're going to do, start that on the side. And if it starts, taking your time away from you from the job, then quit your job and move forward. I probably stayed on a year too long with the other job, but I'm like, it's so funny because in some things I'm very risk adverse, and other things I'm probably pretty risky, like quitting your job and starting a property management firm. So I did that, and we built that up to around 984 units, single families in 3 markets. And then the big guys came and knocking. My business partner was ready to sell, so I said, fine, let's sell. Took a job with the big company. This is in 2019 now. And in 2021, VPM launched. And so I left the other company in June of 21, launched VPM. And here we are, 2025. There's a lot of other things that go in there. I could talk about I lost my apartment complex, and I lost my life savings at 31. I had to rebuild, but I stayed in the game. So to answer your question, JP, yes, I still own property, not as much as I owned back then. I bought a lot of Class D stuff. Not a big fan of that. We could talk about that if you like, but I own Class B single family homes. I own 9 homes and 4 notes. So 9 homes and 4 notes.
So why did you move from Class D to Class B?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't make money in Class D.
Yeah, but Class D is where all the cash flow is.
That's
and I can buy the units super cheap.
It's exactly right. I did buy the unit super cheap, and I was only looking at cash flow. And when you look at that, you're looking at it like this, like a sniper, and you're not seeing what else is out there, right? The appreciation that there's these things called people, and people live in these Class D places, and these people are just really hard on the property. They don't care about themselves. They don't care about their kids. They don't care about your property. I was buying back then. This is in 2005. I was buying properties in Houston, Texas for $35,000. So let's call it $40,000. I had to put $5,000 down to buy the property. My make readies would cost me $15,000 because these folks would tear up the property. Paint is paint, regardless if it's Class A, B, C, or D. Rugs are rugs. Like, nothing is much cheaper just because you have to get, a refrigerator is a refrigerator. So you still have to buy all this stuff. And we got our we got our butts kicked. I'll just put it that way. What happened was the original vision was to own 500 single family units. And when we got to 30 of them, we created the management company. My accountant's like, you got to create a management company, because we had LLCs that owned 15 properties each. We had the management company. And what we found is he made us like pay the management company. And we found at the end of the year, the management company made money and the properties didn't. And the next year, same thing. And the next year, same thing. So I'm like, we're done. So I basically cleaned house, sold all those properties. I owner financed a few of them. One I still have today. And the rest, actually, no, I owner finance a bunch of them to investors. I had a 3 to 5 year payout. So they had to refinance in those 3 to 5 years. But when I sold them to the investor and I owner financed them, it was the first time I made money on those properties. And I had them for like 7 years. Yeah, it was. So I got rid of them. And now I own just B stuff. I won't buy D. I'll buy C, but I'll typically B and C. I stay away from the A stuff, just too much money to get in. But I don't buy in Houston anymore either. Where are you guys located?
Cash flow, Ohio, baby.
Ohio. Yeah, that's cash flow capital of the world. There's not a lot of appreciation there, from what I understand. I just bought my first property outside of Texas. I bought it in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the old saying, boys, when should you buy property? 20 years ago. When's the next time you should buy property? Today. Tulsa, to me, is Houston 20 years ago. Like, you're getting the 1% rule, which I know you guys get in Ohio. In Houston, we used to get the 1% rule, right? I buy a property for, I buy a property for $150 and it rents for $1,500. Not anymore. Now you're buying a property, it's $250 and it rents are $1,800. In Tulsa, I just bought a property last year, $125 for an $1,190 was the rent on it. And the insurance in Houston's crazy, and the taxes here are high in Texas. And so the taxes there are really low, and insurance was very, very reasonable, considering that it's Hurricane Alley or Tornado Alley. So so I don't buy in Houston anymore.
It's beautiful. Me and Peter up here laughing. That's just the only reason we're doing that is because we are right on line with that. I mean, buying in good areas that have good appreciation with still cash flow, but not your $500-$600 a door that you might get in your Class D neighborhoods, where it's a lot higher cash flow, but a lot lower appreciation. And then obviously, like you said, consistent tenant turnover and big turns every time you turn those over.
And Pete, you were making this kind of joke, but it only cash flows on paper.
Mm-hmm.
In my experience, and I've got 25 years experience in this, so it only cash flows on paper. I look at that. I do my Excel spreadsheet. And I look at the bottom right corner. I'm like, oh man, 400 plus a month in cash flow. And I'll tell you, I bought, I think I ended up buying 30 in the low income area, and I bought one in like a nice area. The property was 80,000. It was renting for 800. So it was the 1% rule, but I was making with after tax insurance, I was making like $100 a month. Like, it wasn't much. This is the house I live in today. I ended up knocking that house down. That I bought for 78,000. The land appreciated for like 250 when I knocked the house down. I built a house, it appreciated, and it I think I was all in with the first house that I bought for 78 plus 420 to build. So I'm in for $500,000. It appraised for $899 the day it was built, and today I just got my HCAD back, my Houston appraisal district, and now it's 1.2. So they just want more and more from me. But this was a grand slam. Now imagine if I would have bought 10 of these properties instead of the 30 of the $40,000 properties in the low income. My life would have had a crazy different trajectory, and I probably wouldn't be talking to you guys now. I'd probably be on in an island sipping Mai Tais.
Yeah, but here's the thing: new investors can't afford the nicer properties just early on in their investing career, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's a challenge.
And maybe they can afford them if they know how to leverage friends and investors. What we see so often is, the new investors think they got to do it all themselves, and they got to think they got to go cheap so they can cash flow. But as you become more seasoned, you move into better properties, and you figure, man, I can really scale quickly by getting some help from my friends as well.
Yeah, I also did a self-directed IRA. So I had a bunch of money when I was a younger man in like an IRA, and then I moved in. I did a self-directed, so that's how I got into the apartment complex. But you can, like, if you're a newer investor, you can buy properties with your IRA money if you move it to a self-directed. The only difference is the money that you make, quote unquote, make from your properties goes back into the IRA, so you can't live on it, you can't touch it. And a lot of people want that cash flow because they want to get rid of their job at some point. And I get that. That was my original idea, was like, I'll make so much cash flow that I can quit my IT job that has helped me get all these properties, right? Like, so it's like, once you quit the job, you can't get the properties anymore because the banks won't loan to you. So you have to be careful of that. What I realized is, even though I owned a business with the properties, that wasn't the ATM business. That is in theory, right? That is supposed to be the business that grows my wealth over decades. Right? That's not supposed to be the cash flow you live off that business. It's not the ATM business. Your job or the company you start, like VPM Solutions, that is the ATM that gives you the money that then you can then go buy the houses, which then gives you all your, that builds your wealth over time. And I had that wrong originally.
Great advice right there. Great advice. Yeah, because it doesn't cost much to get into real estate investing, but it costs a lot to own real estate, right? So new investors, they fumble that one too. Hey, I'm just going to live off this cash flow. And look, man, the first couple years owning a property, often you're losing money. So just remember that. And let that generate wealth in the background. That's how you generate wealth. Yeah, the ATM, the job, the career, the business is nice, and that's the ATM. But again, the same thing, the ATM doesn't necessarily build wealth. The ATM pays the bills and it pays for the vacation every now and then, but the wealth is being built over here with the real estate investing.
Appreciation and principal pay down. Oh no, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's just, I just, man, I made all the mistakes in investing. I can tell you, I made a lot of damn mistakes, and I still survived, and I still have a bunch of equity, and I still have wealth built over that time. The other thing too is, if you have no money, you can find investors, or you can flip them. You can wholesale deals. I did that for a couple of years too. And that's a painful way of making money for me. I didn't enjoy it, but I made enough money, and then I would go buy, I go do a deal or two, and then I'd go buy a house or two. So there's lots of ways to get into real estate, which is a beautiful thing. However creative you can be, you can get into real estate.
That's exactly it. Hey, we're up over 20 minutes. Thank you, Pete. Pete Neubig with VPMSolutions.com, virtual assistants for real estate and property management. Closing thoughts, JP.
I was just only closing thought. I think a great episode, man. Just talking about some experiences and talking about your opinions and on investing as well. What would you say, obviously growing the business, growing the company, what's next for you personally, Pete? And what's the long-term goal of VPM, and what's the long-term goal for you personally right now?
Yeah, it's funny. I think for VPM, we just want to continue to grow the business. We right now, we're really focused on real estate and property management, single family property management. And I think we want to get into other verticals, short-term, HOA, things of that nature, but stay really niched in the real estate industry and try to add as much value as possible. We're going to be building some integrations. We're building some data points, some data analysis. So you'll be able to see how you compare to other people on the platform. But for me personally, at 55, I'm starting to really think, what is next for me? What happens in 20 years? Do I leave a legacy? I don't have children. So for me, that's a little bit different than most people who have children. Like, oh yeah, well, I just leave the business to the kids. So to be honest with JP, I'm struggling with that right now. I don't know what's in store for my wife and I at this time.
Well, I will say this. The future is bright for Pete Neubig and whatever path he chooses going forward. Thank you for joining us, Pete. Thank you, JP. Check out Pete at VPMSolutions.com. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate the time. Thank you, everyone, for watching the Dream Huge podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, remember the rules. Work hard, never give up, and dream huge, baby. Let's see the guns, Pete. Let's see the guns, baby.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you, JP. You guys have a great day.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Dream Huge podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. For more inspiring content, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Dream Huge Realty and on TikTok at Dream Huge Inc. Until next time.